I thought he was gonna say a rapist, but...
Foolish monkeys, I have come to say the N-word. No, Frieza, you can't say the N-word. I'm gonna... Frieza! You can't say the N-word. Take this. No one says the N-word when I'm around. Not if I have anything to say about it. And now I'm gonna say it louder. Nigga! You can't say the N-word!
Alright. Alright.
One Piece is the most successful manga of all time. You can argue all you want about which series may have the best quality, is the most culturally influential, or how iconic they may be. But when it comes down to sales and popularity, One Piece is by far the leader of the pack. It surpassed all other manga, old and new. And by the time it finishes, it'll probably be the highest selling comic, period. But why? What makes this series so much more successful than others? How did it get and hold such a huge fan base? What does Eiichiro Oda do to make One Piece One Piece? Let's break it down. A lot of the time when you ask people what makes One Piece great, they'll usually respond with world building or characters or emotional moments, and that's all true. But one of the more underrated parts of One Piece is the technical aspect of it. In other words, how Oda writes the series. The way he creates, builds, and concludes all of the arcs and sagas while keeping the reader engaged is really something that deserves more credit. One Piece has over 1,000 chapters. Insane. What's even more insane is that there are people who have been reading the series for 15, 20, even 25 years. There's probably someone out there who watched One Piece as a kid and is now watching with their kid who is the same age as them when they started. Which is weird considering that usually manga series, especially the more modern ones, try to conclude their plots as quickly as possible out of fear of losing their audience's interest, which leads to lower sales, which leads to the series getting cancelled early. This has led to arcs getting shorter and shorter and shorter so they can just get to the final battle. But One Piece does the exact opposite. Instead of keeping its arc short to keep the audience engaged, which honestly results in a lot less emotional depth, One Piece actually extends its story with a ton of setup to add more depth and complexity. A great example is how Oda introduced Vivi and Baroque Works, a major character and the main villains of the first significant saga of One Piece, Alabasta. In chapter 103, Vivi first appears as some Team Rocket type villain, but we also learn that she's part of some type of organization. Then, in chapter 107, we learn that the organization's actually called Baroque Works and is full of bounty hunters. Then, in chapter 110, we learn she's actually a princess acting as a spy. Finally, in chapter 113, we learn that Baroque Works is an organization headed by Crocodile, a pirate warlord who has sabotaged and is trying to take over the kingdom of Alabasta. Oda took over 10 chapters to properly introduce Vivi and her conflict after her first appearance when he could have just done it in one by introducing her as a runaway princess. At first sight, it seems like Oda just used mystery to string along his audience, but it wasn't for no reason. In the span of those 10 chapters, Oda 1 showed the desperation and will of Vivi. We see firsthand how Vivi was willing to put herself in harm's way by infiltrating the enemy's organization, so we have a greater appreciation for her character and understanding of how dire her situation is. 2, he introduces us to the main theme of Alabasta, which is friendship. Throughout Alabasta, and especially its ending, we see how important friendship is. So having Vivi's friends sacrifice themselves for her at the start of the saga is a great setup and gives us a preview of what's to come. 3, he fleshed out Baroque Works. Crocodile and Baroque Works are meant to be on the opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to the theme of friendship. So instead of just telling us about how Baroque Works is ruthless and don't care about each other, Oda showed us by having their agents assassinate their comrades, which is way more effective.
18 minutes of this shit. Batukan, the final nut trailer. Your video is age restricted. I cannot watch it, thankfully.